Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, listen, there has been a talk by those who advance the cause of civilian disarmament that one of the things they must do is implement universal background checks. Now, most people who promote universal background checks can't really tell you what that means, but what it does mean is it means that all gun sales, private or retail or otherwise, at a gun show, on GunBroker, on anything that you could possibly imagine, each and every one of them would have to go through a licensed FFL undergoing a 4473 and any applicable background checks that would be necessary and any statutory waiting periods applicable in that local jurisdiction. It would be a very, very difficult task to actually accomplish unless, of course, there was legislation in place that could make that happen. Oh my gosh, guess what there is? It's called the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And for that reason, the ATF has a chance to do something with a rule that usually they would be well outside their lane. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about time is running out to stop universal background checks. Okay, what are we talking about today? Well, we've talked about this before. It is ATF Rule 2022-R-17, which is a rule to further define what it means to be engaged in the business of selling firearms. Now, why would the ATF need to do that? Well, because last year we passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act with bipartisan support, and there is an adage that if you give them an inch, they will in fact take a mile. Well, what was in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was all the groundwork and framework necessary to actually subject every American to universal background checks. Now, the ATF themselves specifically claims in their release, on August 30th, 2023, the Attorney General signed ATF's Notice of Proposed Rulemaking 2022-R-17, Definition of Engaged in the Business as a Dealer in Firearms, which proposes to amend ATF's regulation to implement the provisions of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, enacted on June 25th, 2022. And in publishing this rule, the Department of Justice specifically stated, the Justice Department today announced that it has submitted to the Federal Register a notice of proposed rulemaking that would clarify the circumstances in which a person is engaged in the business of dealing in firearms and thus required to obtain a license and run background checks. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, enacted June 25, 2022, expanded the definition of engaging in the business of firearms dealing to cover all persons who devote time, attention, and labor to dealing in firearms as a regular course of trade or business to predominantly earn a profit through the repetitive purchase and sale of firearms. And at the President's direction then, the Department of Justice and ATF now is in the process of further defining what it means to be involved in that sort of business. Now, the notice of proposed rulemaking here by the ATF specifically moves to clarify the definition of dealer and define the terms purchase and sale as they apply to dealers. Clarify when a person would not be engaged in the business of dealing in firearms as an auctioneer or when purchasing firearms for and selling firearms from a personal collection. Set forth conduct that is presumed to constitute engaging in the business of dealing in firearms and presumed to demonstrate the intent to predominantly earn profit from the sale or disposition of firearms absent reliable evidence to the contrary. Okay, so it's going to be these presumptions that you will have to overcome. The proposed rule also suggests it will clarify that the intent to predominantly earn a profit does not require the person to have received a pecuniary gain, and that intent does not have to be shown when a person purchases or sells a firearm for criminal or terrorism purposes. Okay, and this is the same type of analogy we're seeing in a lot of FFL legislation where it would be akin to being able to sue the Ford Motor Company because somebody driving a Ford F-150 got drunk one night and killed somebody in a drunk driving accident. The rule also, in addition to several other things that we're going to skip over for purposes of this video, also offers to Clarify that licensees must follow the verification and record-keeping procedures in 27 CFR 478.94 and Subpart H, rather than using an ATF Form 4473 when firearms are transferred to other licensees, including transfers by a licensed sole proprietor to that person's personal collection. Now listen, it's pretty obvious. What the purpose of this rule here is to absolutely shut down every single private sale of a firearm nationwide. So whether you use GunBroker, Arms List, or various other methods to sell to other lawful and responsible gun owners, unless you are a licensed FFL, those days are coming to a rapid end if this rule goes into effect. Now, the comment period is rapidly coming to an end. You only have now until December 7th to get your comments in. So we're going to put down in the description box all the links and all the information you need to make comments. Now, we've already done this video right here where we kind of coached you on how to make comments that can actually be productive. I know what you want to tell them, but let's talk about the things you need to tell them. But listen, if this rule goes into effect, those who favor civilian disarmament will have established one of their greatest necessary accomplishments, which is they will have subjected each and every American to universal background checks. The rule, once again, is ATF Proposed Rule 2022R-17. We will link that up down below so you can geek out on the rule for yourself. And again, please comment, and all the information necessary to do that, that is also right down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.